Excellent. Wonderful to speak to you today.
And you as well. Thank you for the co-creation.
Excellent. My first question is, as far as the chrysalis and expansion of ascension throughout worlds, like how you had Shekinah expand your collective and integrate your collective.
Yes.
Does that reflection and does that pivot point, how does that take forms in multiple worlds? And how would that take form in our world that's maybe slightly different from your world?
Well, it has taken form in your world, and the way that it was different is that it has expanded over time through multiple teachers rather than simply one particular historical event. So the idea of Shekinah in our world can be expressed on your world as the idea we have discussed many times of what you archetypally refer to as either Christ consciousness or Buddha nature or Krishna spirit or many other ideas of master teachers in different cultures on your planet spread out over time, all delivering similar messages that have a cumulative effect, leading you to this point of transition now, where you bring that information with you and you make it work for you in an accelerated way. For us, it simply only needed to happen in one particular moment. For you, it stretched out over time.
Understood. So it's just time for us to get along with it.
Yes.
Excellent. My next question is going through this chrysalis time when people are experiencing such resistance and heaviness right now with maybe the shadow of physical reality during this time. What is, and I like how you're talking about many of the biblical references during this time of forgiveness in the Lord's Prayer. Yes. And the idea of it's hard for quote unquote, I know this is a metaphor and not exact, but for a rich man to get into heaven is challenging, but that just denotes to fear-based systems and greed.
Yes, it's only talking about the idea of negative versions of attachment. It's not talking about whether you actually have physical wealth.
Yes.
It's talking about the accoutrements that often go with it that are fear-based.
Yes.
And so that's why we bring up the idea of the eye of the needle.
Yes. So during this time of this ascension process, it really seems to be, while people are going through a lot of financial hardship, it's about staying present with your energy and doing what you can do in your excitement, regardless of what happens. So it's the circumstances don't matter, is showing us more and more extreme ability and options to exercise this truth for us.
Yes, as long as you stay aligned with your integrity in terms of the actions that you take, and strip away the idea of the fear-based beliefs, then you will streamline yourself to make it more feasible, more probable for you to go through the narrow passage of the eye of the needle and come out the other side in a more accelerated way and in a closer version to your true self.
Excellent. And through all the teachings of all the esoteric wisdoms of the mystery schools of all ages, all the practices from the very beginning, maybe from the teachings of the sages and the extraterrestrials, all have been leading us to awaken our dormant genetic material.
Yes.
Yes. So really it's the time to really be more convicted than ever than spiritual practice and internal cultivation and development and letting go of the external.
And in physical application. Yes. Remember that physical action is the language of physical reality. And if you're not actually taking actions that are representative of that spiritual awareness internally, then you're not speaking a language that anyone can hear.
Yes. Oftentimes I have a little bit of fear, maybe going back to past sessions where you talk about as the years go on and the energy accelerates, that you don't want to get left behind. So stay in that frequency. So I might have created, I want to be very careful of not jinxing myself or helping others unjinx themselves.
But watch the idea of the definition that you're holding on to, because the very thought that you can jinx yourself is part of what we're talking about that might be wise to let go of. And just assume that if you do your best, you'll be fine.
Got you. So don't second guess yourself. Stay in a state of conviction of knowing.
Yes, the idea of using the phrase being left behind is actually just another way of saying you're making your choices. You're making your decisions as to what you say you prefer to align with. That's all it means. So you will experience the consequences of your choices. That's all it means. So if you make choices that are more in alignment with who you really prefer to be, then it's not about framing it or phrasing it in the manner of being left behind. You will be in the reality that you chose to be in. And if it's the best you can do in terms of the choices you make, you'll be fine.
Excellent. I love that. And with the release of the Pentagon releasing UFO footage for the first time, has that brought your ship a little closer, perhaps?
Tiny bit.
Just a little bit?
Because it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning. Because there's been an increase in UFO activity, has there not?
No, there has been an increase of your awareness of the activity that's going on all the time, and that's a big difference.
Excellent. And through all these changes,
yes,
as the stock market, like personally, I've been playing the stock market gains and losing, and I'm using this experience to neutralize and accept my decisions and not getting hard on myself.
All right.
Using this as a valid exploration of self-mastery to keep.
You can certainly do that, but again, please do remember not to ignore all other forms of abundance.
Yes, absolutely, which is the most important. And I see maybe that's a big issue with people that play the stock market is focusing too much on the financials when there's so much more beauty to it.
Because your stocks can rise with synchronicity. Your stocks can rise with being given gifts. Your stocks can rise with your imagination. Your stocks can rise in your ability to trade for what you need. Stocks can rise in all these forms and other forms of abundance. There is not only one stock market.
Wow, I love that. Going back to the idea of remembering your value and investing in yourself during this time.
Absolutely. And that comes with what? Appreciation.
Yes.
It's not an accident that you use these same terms for the idea of your financial reality. Appreciation, valuation, so on and so forth. These are things you need to give yourself so that your stocks will rise.
Excellent. Bashar, I had a powerful dream the other night of an anaconda.
Yes.
And it was very powerful because this anaconda was very calm and peaceful. And a bunch of little kittens were running around as well. And we all had a wonderful time enjoying each other's company. Can you speak a little bit more about the anaconda and the representation of the symbology in the dream?
The archetypal symbology has to do with connecting to ancient wisdom and the idea of unfolding some of the dormant DNA structures.
Wonderful. So
it is not an accident that your caduceus is two intertwined snakes, which is the idea of the genetic markers of DNA.
Yes, which is a symbol that I feel is really misunderstood this day and age, as it's a symbol of, on most hospitals, but a lot of people have forgotten and don't even know any clue about the ancient meanings and the history of where this comes from.
Yes.
Yeah, so maybe that's a big education for us to take place, to educate the lineage of where these things come from, of those great teachers, probably from, Tote himself. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And others as well.
So in the idea that caduceus, as far as pinnacle health and evolution of DNA and genetic material, this is all coming back to the idea of the internal state of consciousness and vibration is the first thing to consider as far as health.
Yes. And it will open up more of the markers within your genetic makeup that will allow you to extend your senses into other dimensional realms, hence the kitten.
Wonderful.
Because cats can see into other dimensions.
So even the kitten has a representation. Maybe all the different animals have a representation of what can be had in the expansion of our senses.
And we just actually dealt with that particular question with another person.
Cool. So this goes back to the idea of the cryptic and merging with nature and connecting greater with nature.
It goes forward to that, yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the last question I have, as far as the world is going and finances, that
which world? The one you're in, or the one you're simply observing that is simply vibrationally incompatible with what you prefer, that you can see but are not part of? Which world?
I guess the world that I'm seeing that's slowly coming, that a lot of people might have negative belief systems about, as far as the IMF making a world currency.
But again, you navigate yourself with your actions in following the formula and following your passion. You navigate yourself through the parallel reality timelines that are representative more and more of the world you prefer. Remember, again, you don't change the world you're on. You change yourself and you shift to another version of Earth that coexists simultaneously with the one you used to be on. That one continues in its own way. And again, just because you might be able to observe portions of it, you're looking through a glass wall that separates that reality from the one that you are choosing to live in. So even though you can see it, it doesn't have the ability to get through the wall to affect you unless you choose to be affected and shift yourself and tunnel yourself through that wall to the other reality. So learn from what you're seeing as a way of contrasting what you do and don't prefer, and know that you are, through your actions and your vibrational choices, in the reality you prefer, regardless of what you see around you happening in other realities you don't live in.
Wonderful. Taking full ownership of your vibration and your conviction and confidence.
Because just because you can observe a reality you don't prefer doesn't mean you're part of it, if you remain neutral in your observation.
Excellent. So playing with the stock market, I have to be very careful that I don't fall into that collective traditional Wall Street energy.
It's not about being careful, because again, that implies that you might accidentally slip instead of just continue to make conscious choices about what you prefer.
Excellent, Bashar.
Watch your definitions.
Thank you so much. That helps me extremely much, and I'm always extremely grateful to interact with you and love you very much. Thank you.
Then we extremely and unconditionally love you as well.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.